What's up, guys? It's Brandon with Extreme Dollar Drivers, where we are always balling on a budget and wrenching in our garage. And today I'm going to show you how to remove the transmission out of your third-gen Honda Prelude. The reason I'm removing it is because I need to get to a rear main seal cover to bring it to my engine builder so he can throw it on there along with the new rear main seal and get my engine back to me. I'm also going to remove the oil pan and also the oil pickup. So follow along as I disassemble my car with no guide whatsoever and probably do everything wrong, but nonetheless, I get a good outcome. So here we go. So we're going to start off by removing the shift linkage. There are two C-clips you need to pull out on the top of the linkage, and then once those are free, you can go ahead and remove the bracket that is held to the top of the transmission. It's a couple, I think, 14 millimeter bolts. Once you got the shift linkage removed and set off to the side, you can go and start removing your axles. First thing you do is you pull your tire, and then you're going to remove the axle nut. Since I had already redone the suspension, the axle nut was just hand tight, so I didn't have to crank on it with anything. But I originally got these loosened with my impact wrench that I got from Harbor Freight. Once you get that nut off, you're going to kind of smack the axle backwards with a hammer, and then you're going to start removing the lower ball joint. I have this little clamp or puller, whatever the heck it is you see here. It's pretty awesome. It presses the ball joint up, which allows me to move it off the lower control arm, which is what's happening here. And once you do that, you get that free, you can go ahead and pull the basically the hub off to the side. And sorry for the lighting here, but I'm wrestling with the axle to pull it out of the back of the hub. Now you get underneath the car with a small pry bar and start prying the axle backwards. It started to come out really easily here, but then got to a point where it was stuck. So you're going to see me start to rotate the axle and wrestle with it for a little bit. It's just a process of rotating it, wrestling with it, and then sooner or later it gives way. So now that the driver's side axle is gone, we'll start taking off the flywheel cover here. It's 3 bolts, and it'll pop out. I also removed the brace that went from the cross member to the back of the car. I can't remember exactly where it attached, but it's 5 volts. Removed that, got that out of the way. So now it's off to the oil pan. I have to remove this and bring it to the engine builder because he wanted to put it back together with a new gasket. And he also wanted a new oil pickup, so I had to remove that as well. So I think there are 575 oil pan bolts you have to undo that take a little while. The good news is that they're all pretty easily accessible, and they're 10 millimeters, so they pop right off. Once you remove all the bolts, the oil pan will act like it doesn't want to come free. You got to wrestle with it for a little bit, but it will eventually come off. So just be patient, don't break it, it's fragile, and eventually, as you can see, it comes right off.
So check this out. this was in my oil pan. How does this get in the oil pan? There's no direct way to put this or to get this in your oil pan without either shoving it up through the oil drain plug or removing the pan and putting it in. This doesn't just fall through the engine accidentally and make its way all the way to the oil pan. It's impossible. It doesn't work that way. That's not how the engine's built. I don't have no idea how this happened. But the previous owner or their mechanic probably has a better idea of how it happened than we do.
All right, so it's back to work here. We're going to go ahead and remove the lower radiator hose. This thing is always fun. Stupid worm gear down there. It never wants to back off, and then it always wants to stick. But after you wrestle with it for a little while, you get to pull it off and tuck it out of the way. All right, so now I'm going ahead and removing the starter. Pretty straightforward, just a couple bolts. In a perfect world, I'd be replacing this altogether with a newer one, but number one, I know it works, and number two, this build's expensive and everything's adding up, so we're gonna skip the new starter. Now I am going to drain the oil. It's actually supposed to be transmission fluid, but Honda calls for regular motor oil, which is what it's filled with. I never really got to drive the car, so it's just brand new clean oil that you're going to see pouring out. But I will be replacing it with some good stuff, probably the Honda stuff or Redline or something along those lines. So at this point, everything's been removed off of the transmission. Axles have been pulled. I'm getting my jack underneath, and I'm starting to back out all the bolts around the perimeter of the transmission that are holding it to the block. All right, guys, we got a ton of stuff removed out of the engine bay. Everything seems to be going as it should be. Got a bunch of bolts removed out of the transmission. We're now going to get the jack underneath and take the last couple bolts out of the mounts and drop this tranny down. So we've gotten most of the bolts, I think all of them actually, and we're just trying to separate this a little bit. The jack's underneath, so it's not going to go slamming down, but there are dowel pins in here that are probably keeping this together. Let me show you one. Can you see? Get out of here, stupid thing. Can you see right here? There you go. See it? So there are a number of those around the perimeter. So we got to be easy. All right, all the bolts are definitely out. This thing is really ready to go. This part is the scary part. You gotta wiggle it and jiggle it and play with it, and eventually it'll come loose and come down. It does weigh probably 100 pounds. When I did this on the XB, I just was under there and grabbed it. The jack's under there now. It should hold it for the most part. I may have to balance it from up top once it gets loosened, but it's really ready to go. So you can see it's so spread out. I mean, there's a huge gap here, but there is inside there's a throwout bearing. I don't know if you can see, but there is a little spindle guy that this transmission has to slide out from, and that's where I'm having trouble getting it off of that little center spindle. I don't know the correct name for it, but a lot of jiggling going on, but it's not going anywhere, so I got to figure out how to get this done. All right, check it out. Transmission's been removed. My transmission jack was too high, so I had to hold the transmission while my wife slid out the jack and threw a skateboard underneath it. And then we realized the skateboard was too high, so we went ahead and pulled the skateboard out and slid the transmission down on the ground. You can get a better shot of it here. Here is our pressure plate and clutch assembly, which needs to be removed. That's what we're going to do right now. Then we're going to remove the flywheel
And then we are going to have access to our rear main seal cover. I believe. So let's pull this crap apart. Boy, it looks like shit. I'm glad I'm doing this now. So we're removing the pressure plate now. I believe this is the original pressure plate to the car. So this clutch has probably got 170,000 miles on it. The bolts are like star shaped. They're kind of hard to see, but I had to run to AutoZone. Or I'm sorry, I went to Advanced Auto first. They closed 15 minutes early, those sons of bitches. So I had to run to O'Reilly's, who stayed open, and let me buy a 12-point 10mm socket. So we are going to remove these star bolts, which are ultimately, these are going to get replaced with a new set. So anyway, that's the crazy bolt that I had to run and get a stupid 10mm socket for. Here we go. There's a pressure plate. And here's the clutch. This thing looks like crap. I don't really know what a good clutch looks like, to be honest with you. But I'm assuming it has a lot more life on it than this. This just seems just really worn out. So it's a good thing we're doing this, because these guys are going to get replaced. Here's the flywheel and some crazy looking bolts, and behind those bolts should be our rear main seal cover, which is why we're doing all this. So I got to figure out how to get those things off. I'm hoping it's like a 12-point 14mm or 16mm. I don't know what size those bolts are, but hopefully I can figure. Hopefully I have the tools to do it, and we'll get those suckers off there. What was that? Oh God, everything is dripping on me. Whoa! All right, that's it. And there it is. That's the rear main seal. Oh God. There's your rear main seal. All this work for that. I guess I gotta take those stupid 4 little 10mm bolts off there and that little bracket, and then we're all finished. Oh, it's been a long night. Oh, we're done. Here we are, guys. Remember when this was all together? Transmission's removed. Rear main seal cover, as requested, removed. It's over here. Right there. We got our flywheel removed. And I'm actually going to take this with me because I want to see if they can lighten it. I'll drop it off with them. And then if they can shave it down and cut some weight off of there, that'll be awesome. So I'm going to bring that. Rear main seal cover. We got the axles out. Axles removed. I forget what this is called, but it's removed. I had to remove it. It's like the transaxle or something. Not sure what that's called. How that had to go. And then over here, there's more parts. Head studs, header, thermostat housing, supports, flywheel cover. We got our starter and the carnage. Pretty rad though. Right now, the only thing holding that engine in there is the engine mount right there. I'm gonna throw a jack under it just to give it some support. But so here's the transmission out of the car, all cleaned up. If you want to know how we got it so shiny, go ahead and watch my previous video on how to clean raw aluminum.
but it's out, rear main seal, cover is off, along with everything else is ready to go to the engine builder. And then next time you see this guy, it's going to be going back in the car with a brand new engine. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you learned something. Please go ahead and hit us up on Instagram and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you don't enjoy it, well, stay tuned for the next one. Maybe you'll like that one. I'll see you next time, guys. Have a good day.